Hello, hello, my loves. Welcome. We are going to be talking about March's wrap up and my April TBR. So, if you are interested in hearing about what books I read throughout the month of March and what books I'm going to be reading through the month of April, please keep watching. Okay, you guys. So, March. I I wasn't sure what was going to happen in the month of March. I have been on a vacation this month because we're still in March as I film this. Today is the 30th. And I wasn't sure if I was going to read much. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. So, I'm actually pleasantly surprised with the success of the month now that I have my little books written down of what I read. So, let's get into it. On the 1st of March, I read Nestlings. So I started the month off with the book Nestlings. I started this on the 1st of March, and on the 7th of March, I decided to DNF the book. I gave it a 1-star rating. I did not like it. It was not the vibe. I think that this book would have been interesting and a good one to read had I been more in the mindset or prepared for that content. But I just wasn't in the mood to read about babies at the moment. So I should have known better when I was starting this book because I kind of had a feeling it was going to be similar to Rosemary's Baby, and it's a baby content book. And I just wasn't feeling it that time of the month. So yeah, it just didn't catch my eye. I didn't find it interesting. The first few pages that I read, the chapters, it just wasn't grabbing my attention, and I can already tell it was going to be a DNF book. Maybe later on in the future I will pick it up and read it, but it just wasn't for me. And so you guys know, I do count my DNFs as books read. And I do that because I am not going to be wasting my time reading a book for a week or so, or sometimes I'll DNF a book when I'm halfway through. Like sometimes it's 10 pages, sometimes it's like half the book. I count everything because I spent quality time reading that book for what I did. So it's going to count. After that, so around the 3rd of March, I picked up the book Cosmic Care Astrology, Lunar Cycles, and Birth Charts for Self-Care. So I read this from the 3rd of March through the 7th, and I rated it 3 stars, 3-star rating. This astrology book is a very good book for beginners. If you're looking for something that is going to be a simple, quick read, this is it. It goes into a lot of information, but it's very basic information, like very textbook astrology. There's really nothing exciting about the book itself. It's very just cut and dry. The writing style is really simple. It's not hard to understand. It's not going to give you a headache reading it. So I will say it's good for that, but for me personally, it was just too cookie cutter astrology, and I don't like that. I like when I learn something new from a subject that I've been studying for years. So it just wasn't it for me. Then on the 5th of March, I started to read A Dowry of Blood, and I read this one till I finished it on the 14th. I gave this book a 5-star rating. It was so good. It took me a little bit longer than I thought to read it. Part of me was letting it drag on because I did not want to finish the book right away. And then the other part of me was also busy because this kind of started to get into the week where I was, me and my husband were going out doing things for our vacation. So I was kind of distracted as well. The Dowry of Blood is about a woman's perspective, a woman meaning one of Dracula's brides, her perspective of becoming his bride, becoming a vampire, and her experience of Dracula, her experience with the other brides, and all of that. And it's just so so good. It is just a really cool perspective to get. It's written in such a poetic way. I've never read anything else by this author, so I really, really love her writing style, and I am going to read her other book. She has another book that she wrote. So I am definitely going to pick it up because her writing style is really beautiful. It's very poetic, but it's not confusing poetic. Like, it's really good. She writes really, really well. And I love this book. And the cover of this book was so gorgeous, and it's just, I've really been in the vampire mood. So I really, really loved it. 5 stars. Then I read An Encore of Roses on the 14th. So immediately after The Dowry of Blood. The Encore of Roses is kind of like the epilogue of A Dowry of Blood. It kind of gives you like a little bit of an ending, like a conclusion to some of the stuff that you're wondering of what happened. And it's like a 25-page book, and there was like a PDF download that you can download to read it. It also was attached to the book itself, but I counted it because it shows up on Goodreads as its own separate book, because it literally is, it used to be like a little PDF download that you would have to get to read it. But the newer, the more updated versions of Dowry of Blood actually have it included in the book. So I read that in a day on the 14th, and I gave it a 5-star because obviously it's just a continuance of the book, and it's so good, and it just really answers some of your questions, and it just kind of gives you like that happy ending that you needed, like the closure that you needed. But I also wouldn't be opposed to a book 2, you know, so we'll see if it becomes its own little series, but I don't know. I'm not really sure. After that, on the 15th of March, I started to read We Sold Our Souls. And on the 19th of March, I decided to DNF it, and I gave it 2 stars. This was actually the book club for Barnes & Noble. So Barnes & Noble, my local Barnes & Noble hosts a horror book club once a month. And this was the book they were reading, and I was giving it a shot because it's by Grady Hendrix. And Grady Hendrix is the author of Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, as well as the Last Girls, I don't know, there's another one. If I remember, I'll put the little picture here. But Grady Hendrix wrote a couple other books that I really liked. And I've also learned that Grady Hendrix is the type of author where they are a hit or miss for me. I either really love their books or I really hate them. So there's like no in between. And unfortunately, We Sold Our Souls was a book I did not like. I found it boring. I found it a little confusing to keep track of all of the characters because they just all felt the same. I just didn't really relate to the band and being into the metal bands and like that kind of thing. I think that the age range of the characters kind of threw me off too because they're in their 50s and I'm just like, in my mind, I'm picturing them younger. So it kind of threw me off and I just wasn't feeling connected. So I did DNF it and I gave it 2 stars because it just didn't do it for me. It kind of felt silly towards the end. And then I picked up on the 19th, I started Nothing But Blackened Teeth. So after having another DNF for the month of March, I was kind of like, okay, let me just read something that's a small book. Just so I could finish it and just feel better about myself because I feel like I was failing in the month of March with these DNFs. So Nothing But Blackened Teeth was like a smaller book. I read it on the 19th and I finished it on the 22nd. I gave it 2 stars. I did not like it. The writing style wasn't hitting it right for me. It had some spooky factors to it, but at the same time, it just felt silly. I don't know. I feel like I'm just so immune to horror that it has to be a really good, nicely written horror story for me to really like it. And this one just didn't do it. So it did have spooky factors. It does have the potential to be a spooky book, but it wasn't my kind of spooky. So yeah, 2 star. I was disappointed. And then on the 23rd, so the day after, I told myself, you know what? I have all these disappointments. May as well start to read Dracula because the one reason why I'm afraid to read Dracula is because I didn't want to be disappointed. I have been putting off reading Dracula because I don't want to be disappointed with the book. I have such high hopes for it. It has been like the classic horror book. Like it's just like the end all be all of vampires. And to me, it's like the one book that started the vampire craze. So I was like, I have high hopes for it. But I felt like my month of March with my reading was just so disappointing that I was like, you know what? Let's just start Dracula and let's just see how it goes. So on the 23rd of March, I started Dracula, and I am currently still making my way through the book. But I will say this is going to be a 5-star read. I am pleasantly surprised. I am happy. I am satisfied. I love it. I love it. I was afraid it was going to be boring because I've had some people tell me that they felt it was boring. I've had people say that it just didn't make any sense. Like they couldn't get into it. It was too descriptive, this and that. So I had like a lot of like fears when I started this book, but just my advice to you guys, if you're ever starting a book that you're afraid of, shut out all of the outside opinions. Don't even listen to anyone. Don't listen to anybody. Even me. Don't listen to me. Read the book. If you're interested in it, if you're curious about it, read the book. See how it makes you feel. But don't listen to anyone else. And don't read reviews. If you're really like having high hopes for a book, especially like a book like Dracula, don't even read the reviews. You have to experience it for yourself. And so that's what I did. So I'm loving it. I actually have it right here. I am loving my Dracula book. This is how much I have left. Tiny little piece right here. So I am officially about 60-something% through. I'm reading it chapter by chapter. So I'm on chapter 19. Chapter 19. Dracula is written in letter form. So the characters are like handwriting letters to one another, and it's just kind of like this whole correspondence, and it's just really cool the way it's written. It has the creep factor. The Bram Stoker really just paints the environment, the gothic horror environment. It's just really nice. I love it. I absolutely love it. So, and I will say too, this is the first book that I am actually listening to audiobook with. I never use audiobooks when I read my books. I always read them physical, eye to the book, to words, right? But I did find a free audio video read-along thing, audiobook on YouTube. So if you are curious to listen to the audio of Dracula, if you search Dracula on YouTube, there will be a few of them that come up where you can listen to the whole book and they'll read chapter by chapter. So I found one that I liked. I like the voice. I like, his style of reading. And I've been listening to it. So I'll put my headphones on and I will, have my book out. So I'm following along. So I still feel like I'm reading it, even though it's being read to me. I kind of speed up the voice a little bit because he does read slower. And I just read along and I follow along, and I've been doing like a couple chapters a day, and it's been really good. So I like the audiobook kind of route to go when you're reading something that's a little bit more chunky. This is a 400-page book. Or if you're reading something that is a little bit more of a challenge. So like I said, in this, you're getting like a different kind of a language in some parts. Some of the characters have a dialect or a slang in the way that they talk. And I've never heard that kind of talk before. So it's kind of cool to hear the narrator read it the way it's supposed to be spoken. Also, it's just kind of nice to have someone read to me and I just tune in and I'm following along with the book. So I'm really able to kind of paint a picture in my mind of what's happening and not focus so much on trying to understand the words and read the words correctly. So yeah, it's really been a good thing, and I'm glad that I started to do the audiobook for that. So I love it. So 5-star read, my little Dracula. I'm so happy. I am literally so relieved that I have turned into loving this book because I was afraid. I didn't want to hate it. So I love it. And this version is so gorgeous. Oh, I love it. So that's what I read for the month of March. That is a total of 7 books with 2 DNFs. So not too bad with the DNFs, but they're, it just is what it is. Like, I'm one of those people where life is too short to force yourself to read a book. If I don't like it, if it's not interesting me, if it's just, I'm not feeling it, I'm going to DNF it. It's just, it is what it is. And I don't feel bad. And I will count it as a book read because, like I said, I could DNF a book in the first chapter, or sometimes I've DNF'd a book when I'm like halfway through. It is what it is. So don't feel bad if you count it. It does count. So let's get into my April TBR. Going into my monthly TBRs, I leave them wide open for changes. So what I'm going to show you guys is what I plan on reading, but I am not setting a definite, like, I have to read these books and nothing else. So, let's just get into it. I do have a whole mishmash, to be honest. I have a whole plethora of books here. I just kind of wanted to leave April open for everything and anything. One of the first books I hope to get to, but I'm not going to hold it to myself, is the second book of Dracula. So Dracula was written in the late 1800s, but this one is written by Bram Stoker's, like, I don't even know what you would call him. Like, he's like a great grandson or something like that. Is that how you do it? Like Bram Stoker was his great grandfather, or I don't know, but he's a descendant from the Stoker family, right? So he wrote Dracula the Undead, and it's by Zachary Stoker, so that's his name. And I don't know, I'm really excited. It's a thick book, but to start something immediately after reading Dracula that is supposed to be kind of like taking place immediately after whatever happens in Dracula, I don't know. I think it would be fun. And look at this cover. Absolutely gorgeous with the roses. So I bought this one used on Thrift Books because of the cover. The modern covers that I see at Barnes & Noble are not as charming as this. So if you are looking for like a really nice, more vintage version of a book that you want to read, I always say look at like the used bookstores or look at Thrift Books or Mercari or whatever. You'd be surprised the gorgeous covers that these books came in, years before. So love this one. What Moves the Dead. So this was actually on my TBR from March and I did not get to it. It is a small little book. So I think, it's only fair for me to add 1 or 2 of these in my TBR every once in a while. I just get good vibes from it. I love the inside cover. And yeah, I keep telling myself when I do my TBRs to add at least 1 or 2 books that are smaller. It just takes the pressure off when you're reading like 400-page books to read something that's just like 100 or 200 pages. So that's What Moves the Dead. I've seen people put really good reviews on it. We'll see. Hopefully I get to it. Please See Us by Caitlin Mullen. This was actually recommended. That's the word I'm looking for. Sorry guys, I'm all like blah, 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 blah. It was recommended to me by one of the people that works at Barnes & Noble. It's a thriller and it has to do with a tarot reader. So I loved that idea because I was like, oh, I'm a tarot reader. This is something I could relate to. But pretty much the tarot reader can see the dead. And the dead are contacting her to obviously probably solve their cases. So it's kind of like her experience of pulling tarot cards and whatnot. And I think the tarot cards play a part in this as well. But I just thought that was so cool. It sounds amazing. And so yeah, I'm definitely going to get into this one because it sounds really, really good. A Botanical Daughter by Noah Medlock. This is a ripe, lush, and bursting with beauty and horror. It will delight, amuse, and terrify. So first off, look at the cover of this. You have this woman with floral skeletons in her hair. It's kind of kind of inspired by Frankenstein from what I've read from reviews and stuff. It's inspired by Frankenstein, but it is a plant horror book. So this man creates a daughter for himself or something like that. But he creates this woman that is made out of plants and body parts and like all that good stuff. And she comes to life, supposedly. So it sounds very Frankenstein, but in a more twisted plant horror kind of a way. And I just thought that the cover was so beautiful. It drew me in. But I feel like something like this would be fun to read for the spring season. So that's why I picked it. And I love it. This next one is A Brilliant Night of Stars and Ice. This is by Rebecca Connolly. This, so I follow a child-free account. I've been following a couple of these because I like the child-free content on Instagram. It's just it's just nice to see that stuff come up rather than like all the kid stuff, right? So anyways, she's a child-free account, Instagram account, and she hosts her own book clubs each month. And this is the book that they are going to read for April. So I don't know if I'm going to join her book club because I don't know. We'll see. But I wanted to read it because it actually sounded really good. So the cover, you have this iceberg in the ocean. The cover drew me in and I was like, okay, I got to see what this is about. So this is actually about the Carpathia. So the Carpathia was the other ship that got note of the Titanic as it was, as it hit the iceberg and it was sinking. And the Carpathia was like 4 hours away from the Titanic. And this is about the Carpathia's journey going to the Titanic and like the experience of that to rescue and do all the things. And it's written in the way of chapters are half of the people or the ship. I think it's the captain. Yes. Captain Rostron of the Carpathia. His letters, like his log. And then the other portion is chapters from one of the Titanic survivors. So, and it's written in fiction form, obviously, so it's not fact, but it's like historical fiction, I guess. But I just thought that would be kind of cool because you get two perspectives. You get a perspective of a person who actually was on the Titanic and their experience of seeing this ship sinking, and then the experience, the perspective of the captain of the ship that was coming to their rescue. So really cool. I hope that it's going to be good. It sounds like it's going to be good. It's not even that big of a book. I was surprised. It's only 310 pages and the chapters are really short. So I like that because I think it'll be a quick read, but it sounds really good. So historical fiction. We'll see how that goes. And then lastly, I wanted to read one of my book of the month books because I have that book of the month subscription. So every month I get to choose a book that I want to read and they send you, the book. Plus if you want extras or whatnot. And my book of the month books are starting to pile up. So I'm like, I need to get through these guys. So I'm going to try to read Annie Bot. This is actually about a robot. Do you refer to them as a robot? But she was pretty much, a man made her for his own pleasure. And it's her perspective of her life. And that just throws me for a loop because you have to remind yourself that this is supposed to be a robot. But it's kind of like her humanity being restored. And it's like a coming to life story of her. And her perspective of pretty much being created to be someone's pleasure. So that sounds really, really good, at least to me. So I'm going to try to get into that, and read that one. And it's also a small book too, like compared to Dracula, compared to this big ass book, these little ones, which I kind of like, cause I need something that's just, I need to give myself a break from the long stuff. Yeah. This book is literally 230 pages. So piece of cake compared to 400. And yeah, that's my TBR, you guys. So I wanted to keep it, like I said, I wanted to keep it simple. I didn't want to overwhelm. This is a lot of books. Will I get to all of them? Probably not. Realistically, probably not. My goal is to read at least 4 books for the month. I am currently ahead of schedule for my goal by like 2 or 3 books, I think. So I can still kind of, like I don't have to like force myself to read a certain amount. I'm trying to read 50 books in the year. So I'm trying to stay on track with at least four books a month. But I'm doing really good so far, so I feel good. I'm not like pressured, or no pressure, but I don't believe I will get through all of these, but you never know. I surprised myself in March. We'll see how April goes, but I love it. Reading is one of my favorite pastimes. It's just something that I absolutely love to do. And yeah, I've just been discovering some really, really, really good books lately, and I just love it. So that is that. Love that. And yeah, you guys, that concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. What are you guys reading for April? Do you guys have any plans? Let me know. And if you've read the sequel to Dracula, what did you think? Don't give me spoilers, but just tell me, what did you think? Was it good for you? Did you not like it? I'm really curious. We'll see. But yeah, until then, I will talk to you guys in my next video. Take care, and yeah, see you guys later.